bike there. What's going on? I'm Noel. Welcome to the first video here on my channel for my Datsun 280ZX. Wanted to film a quick introduction to give a little background on this car, where it's been, what I've done, and where it is currently. I did get this car actually a couple years ago, and I did record some video, and then I got lazy and didn't do any editing and just focused on doing the car work. But I do have some video that I wanted to share, so I'm finally going to dig some of that video up, edit it together, and share some of the processes I took, some of the work that I did to get this car where it is today, as you see.
Okay, so here is the car as it currently sits. 1979 Datsun 280ZX. This would be the second generation of the Nissan Datsun Z car, the S130. Not bad shape, got good bones. I haven't rebuilt the interior yet. I've mostly been working on mechanical stuff, body stuff. 2.8 liter, 5-speed manual transmission, rear wheel drive. Trying to give you all the basics here about this car. Did have air conditioning, cruise control, but this car actually has been converted to carbureted, which I'll go through a little bit later. So it doesn't have all of the same modern-ish features. So that's where the car sits today. But that's not where the car began. And to see that, we've got to go all the way back to probably January of 2021. That would be, I think the date was January 19th. That was the day I pulled the car up the driveway, pushed it into the garage, had not touched a single thing on the car, and pointed a camera at it and started documenting what I had just gotten myself into. So yeah, we can rewind the camera back there and see where this all began. So here's the car, J1, as it was pulled into the garage. As I received it, I had not touched a single thing on this car. It barely ran and drove. I towed it here. I didn't drive it. I had some idea of what was going on with it, but I knew it needed quite a bit. And so this was my first walk around video of this project. The hood, I think, had been replaced by the previous owner. That's not the original hood. There's not a lot of original stuff on this car. The motor didn't match the serial number. The passenger door had been replaced. There had been some other body work. The bumpers were missing. I mean, obviously, those aren't the original wheels. There was not a lot original about this car, but that actually really suited me because my goals for this car are not a true to factory original reproduction. That would make sense, and that would be, the most financially responsible thing to do with a restoration. So, my goals here for this car are, phase one, restoration, get the car back together, go through it, clean it up, get everything working, get it running and driving. From there, it's kind of a resto mod. So, upgrades in performance, upgrades brakes, upgrades in maybe transmission, motor maybe someday, that's way down the line, appearance, aero, suspension. That's kind of my project here. So walking around the car here back in January 2021, you can see it's got a pretty bad squat there. That's because the previous owner had actually cut the original springs almost by half. It really had hacked them quite a bit to get it to sit lower, I suppose. He's got an aftermarket bumper there. He did a primer paint job. I think this was a rattle can job. It was not great. It's not even, maybe that's a guide coat on the top. I suppose it could be. So moving on to the interior. It looks a lot worse than it is, really. There's some of the old padding there from the floor and a lot of just dirt. And there was water in the car, old tape, old adhesives, old matting, stuff like that. But the rust condition of the car was actually not terrible. I mean, there's certainly far worse conditions that you could be looking at. The car was full of junk, full of parts, full of original parts. body panels, aftermarket stuff that he had purchased. If you got a good look there, a quick look there, the dash is actually in decent shape. Just a couple cracks. When it's not pristine, but compared to a lot of other dashes, actually could be a lot worse. There's all the parts there in the back, and pretty soon I'm going to start going through those. There's the seats sitting in there. Those were actually not bolted down. I think they maybe had one bolt in a piece. There was no seat belts in the car at the time. That's an aftermarket radio, as you can probably guess. The faceplate was buried somewhere in a pile of junk. Here's the motor, the carburetor conversion, and this is this is carried throughout the entire car, as I found. He did everything, I'd say, like, part way. I mean, he's got the old license plate there that he had thrown on as a heat shield, which is unique, cool. I'll give him credit for doing something different, but not necessarily done well. Their fuel filter, batteries, I pulled that out after I got it home. He did this kind of electric fan conversion, really hacky wiring job, just plugged directly basically into the battery with a switch. So that was something that needed to be corrected. The carburetors there, twin SU carburetors, we're going to need an overhaul, and they were missing a few parts as well, a choke cable, and then also they were kind of stuck open, so those were going to need some love, some restoration. Digging into the back side of the car here's really the unboxing part of the process, which was kind of fun. It had just piles of parts in the back, which, that could be a bad thing, could be a real bad thing, could be a real bad sign, or it could be a fun thing. I was excited about it. There was just all these parts back there. I knew what some of them were. I didn't know what most of them were, and so I started tearing through. As you can see here, the previous owner had went and got a second gauge cluster. That is the 120 mile an hour cluster. The original one in the car is 80 miles an hour. So at the time, I didn't know the difference. So anyway, there you go. I opened that up and then promptly dropped that on the floor of the garage. So hopefully I didn't break that too bad. But it's got a 120 mile an hour cluster. Maybe something to swap in there one day. We'll see. Diving back into the car, we've got a bunch of the original exhaust pieces, piping that had been just kind of sawzalled out of the car, sitting there in piles, along with all of the interior plastic and trim pieces. I found the original spare tire kit. That was kind of fun. Interior trim plastic. Plan is to convert that all to black down the line, if I ever actually get the interior back together, hopefully. More interior pieces, armrests, more things to clean up, restore, repaint, put back in the car. Here he had I think it was a complete rear brake set, pretty much. Save everything except the actual calipers, but there was pads, rotors, a nice score to have an extra set of brake hardware. Diving back into the car here, we've got this big box, the shop vac box, which was actually packed with the original fuel injection system. So I think that's a throttle body there, kind of hard to see. But he had kept the entire fuel injection system there, the intake manifold, which was nice. Get to keep that, and I still got that sitting away in storage, so if I ever need anything off of that, it's available. There's wiring, something to possibly come back to, or again, sell off for spending money. Wiring harness. There's the intake manifold, throttle body. A lot of the wiring, injectors. There was other parts like that, a couple of ECUs down in the box there. I think there was some new injectors as well. He had, the previous owner had installed a more aggressive cam, so I'm wondering if maybe he was going to put in some oversized injectors and try to throw a flash tune on that to try to compensate for the cam before he decided to give up and go with carburetors. Brake pads for the rear, I assume, more brake components. Not too bad. Partway progress here. Garage is filling up with stuff. Still more in the back. Interior trim looks cover plate for window switches. Weather stripping there, I believe that goes for the back of the hatch. Intake air filter. Pretty dirty. January, still have the Christmas lights up. Pile of parts is growing. That was one thing, again, that I liked about this car. There's just this pile of parts that, even if I never use them, worst comes to worst, I can sell parts off to buy what I want. So, hopefully, as long as everything's not too trashed. So this is the next morning. I got tired that night, decided to call it a break. So I guess technically this would be day 2. Going through the front of the car, there is a glass pack, actually a couple of glass packs in there. More interior trim. The faceplate there for the stereo. Awesome. I think that was a Kenwood stereo from 2000 and who knows. Found an extra key. Had originally only gotten one key, wasn't sure if there was another one, but this is one of the favorite things I actually found about the car was there's this original key, and it also came with this, I believe, original coin or tag that came with the car. Champagne Motors. I have no idea where that is. Pulling out the interior seats here. I'm going to rip the entire interior out of this car because I want to see everything that's going on. Get it all the way down to the bare metal to make sure that I'm not missing any really huge trouble spots. So one thing, as I'm doing this process, find out not really much of a surprise that the car had been parked outside and had served as a home for rats, probably for many years. Later on, as I'm cleaning, I will find several mummified rats inside the car. So, unfortunately, there is some signs of rat damage there in the car. Some rust, some chewed up cables, some ripped up padding and stuff. As you can see, here's the dashboard. Closer look at the 2 trouble spots on the dash. One crack there, and I think 2 more on the far driver's side. So we'll rip the dash out and give that a restoration. Give that a try and see if we can clean that up, look better. Now with the seats out, taking a little closer look here at the condition of the floor of the car. Some surface rust. There is rust in the rails underneath. To be honest, to do the job right, the rails would need to be cut out and probably replaced, at least partially. That's not something I have crossed at this point. I've done some sealing to try to treat it and nurse it along right now as much as I can. Pulling out the center console here. Pretty easy, just emptying out everything I can so I can get as clear an idea of what's going on with this car and clean it up as much as I can. I don't know, I guess maybe I'm a clean freak, but I want to clean everything as much as I can. So one, because I'm a clean freak, I know that the car is clean as it can be, but also because I really want to know what's going on. And so it's hard to see. If I've got to look through layers of dirt and grease and oil and buildup and like that, then it's hard for me to really know what's going on with the condition of the car. So I pull it all the way down and start cleaning up. You'll see I do a lot of cleaning in these videos. So first things first, just a quick vacuum off of the interior and then do a wipe down. For me, this is my first time ever working on a car this old. If you've never worked on it, these are some of the things you see and you're not quite sure what to make of those things. I know I did that a lot of times, and so that's why I just really wanted to clean this car all the way down to the foundation to give myself as much information as possible so then I can start working on it. So here's one of my first Grizzly discoveries, as you can see, and this is exactly why I am doing this, because I wouldn't want to do all this work in this car and slap everything back together only to drive around with mummified rat carcasses. There's a few of them in the car, to be honest. There's one under the passenger seat, one in the back corner there of the hatch, another one buried up behind the dashboard. You'll see another video later on where a rat had actually made a nest in the fan, in the climate, in the heater fan. So, yeah, that was inspiration number one for diving in like this. Was just, it's gross. I can't. I knew there were surprises buried in this car, and the only way to find them was to dig in. All right, so that kind of wraps it up there for the unboxing. Pulled the car out, cleaned out the interior. My next phase of the project here is going to be pulling out the wiring harness, going through the wiring, checking for any issues with that. There were several sections that had been chewed on by rats, some things that had just corroded old connections. So, now I've got the car all open and pulled apart. So now's the time to go through, check the wiring, check connections, pulling out the wiring harness, and then pulling out the dashboard and everything behind the dashboard. So I'll be going through that process in the next video. Hopefully you found this video interesting, maybe even helpful if you're working on your own Datsun project. If you are, hey, please let me know in the comments. Love to hear what you got going on. And if you're feeling like it, sure love a thumbs up and subscribe to let me know you like the content. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the comments.